Final payments. There are usually two different dates if you're using a travel agent. The travel agent may give you a date that might be 3 weeks before the actual final payment date. I've been questioned about that in the past. In fact, I had one client who said that the cruise ships' final date was a certain date, and they wanted to use that date, and they were very adamant about it. So I said, okay. But the problem is, if a travel agent gives you a certain date, that date is for different purposes. One is to get all the dates and payments in order before the final date. There are times when people don't have the money on that final date, and I can give them another day, or we can wait till the following Friday. But if we use the date that is set by the vendor or the cruise ship or the tour, that is the date. So if you don't have it, you need to wait till the next Friday. You're not going. So that's one of the reasons why travel agents give a different date. Another reason is for negotiation. If I have a group and I want a certain amenity for the group, and that means that there may be a party that can be given if the group is large enough, or I'm trying to arrange for my group to sit by a window when they eat. I can have a better I have a better way of negotiating when I can say my trip is paid for and they want to do whatever, as opposed to being asked, has everybody paid? When everybody pays, wait, and if we pay at the final date that the deadline is, that final deadline date, then the negotiations are kind of left to whatever's left you get. So those are some reasons why. Also, there are times when things are, we're able to give a certain amount to a person. For cruise ships, it's a little easier sometimes. It's not always set in stone that the person who brought the amount of people gets a free trip or gets a certain amount off, because not all vendors allow that. That is a perk for the travel agent, and it is at the discretion of the travel agent whether or not to give away that perk. Sometimes you don't have a choice, and the vendor or whoever you're working with is saying, no, the name on that must be a travel agent, and you go through different documentations to prove that you are a travel agent getting a reduced rate or whatever. So sometimes people will say, well, when I was with so and so, they gave me whatever. And I'm just letting you know that every trip is different. You cannot always give a perk. Sometimes you can. It depends on the vendor. It depends on the trip. It depends on the size of the trip. It's always different. So you can't think, I have 50 friends, I've always gotten a free room. That doesn't always happen. And not every vendor is okay with someone that's not an agent getting a perk. So don't assume that if you got one before, it's a given. Rules do change. So back to that final payment. It's very important that you go by the dates of the travel agent. Another reason is that you may be paying online to the vendor if you used to booking yourself, and the deadline might be set to midnight. However, when you're using a travel agent and the booking is due on a deadline date It may be midnight, it might be 5 p.m. And what people don't always realize is when I'm working with people all over the world, 5 p.m. your time may be 3 o'clock another time. So in order not to have to worry about the days or the due dates, or I do have my trips weeks ahead of time that the deadline final payment is due. And that gives me time for negotiation. It gives me time to get the payments in. I don't have to worry about, well, if I have to make the call by 3 p.m. or is it 1 p.m. or was it yesterday, because they're on a different time zone or days. When you're making payments and they're going overseas, that's a whole nother ball game as far as a deadline date. So if you're using a travel agent, try to go with the travel agent with what they're asking. They're not trying to cheat you. They're not trying to keep your money extra long. They're working with deadlines and negotiating in the background. Also, if you're a person that wants to watch every little thing, a travel agent might not be the person for you if you're not trusting what the travel agent is asking you to do. Travel agents have reasons for asking for things ahead of time. They have reasons for doing different things. They're not trying to keep your money. So you have to trust your agent and know that they're the expert in this situation. And if you're not the expert in this situation, you might want to leave it to the travel agent. But again, if you have to watch and question everything, you need to either book it yourself or become a travel agent, because that's always an option too. So, in closing, the final payments that a travel agent gives you is important, and they can be different from what the vendor says for various reasons that you may not even have an idea of what they're working with. Okay, enjoy your day.